The morning began like most others during my internship at the Government Library and Archive Service of East Java Province. The sun peeked through the blinds of my rented room as I finished the last sip of instant coffee and checked the time 7:30 a.m. I didn't need to be at the second office at Jalan Jagar until 9 a.m. So I took my time preparing. As usual, I wore my standard dark blue shoes and tucked in the official uniform they had given us a month ago. Though my body was physically tired, something about this day felt like almost unbothered. When I arrived at Jalan Jagir, the office was still quiet. The staff began to trickle in by 9:15, and I took my position in the service area. For the most of the morning, I helped a few visitors register the archive, searches, and assisted a staff member named Pak Kastoyo with scanning old legal documents. By noon, the workload slowed down. I had done my part for the day and was ready to take a break. My stomach grumbled, reminding me that I hadn't had breakfast. I settled for a quick brunch from a small warung across the street, a simple portion of nasi pecel with tempe. At around 13, I checked the group chat and saw a message. Free coffee is still available at Manur. Come grab it if you are nearby. I smiled. The main office at Jalan Manur Pempungan wasn't far, and I had time to kill before my afternoon class at 17 p.m. I decided to go there. I decided to go there not just for the coffee, but also to hang out and relax a little. Being in that area, being in that rest area often gave me peace of mind. I arrived at Manor Building around 13:45. The rest area was still lively with several staff members and fellow interns. Passing through, I greeted everyone and helped myself to a warm cup of coffee. The aroma of roasted beans instantly calmed my senses. I took a seat on a cushioned bench near the glass window and sipped slowly, observing the room's movement like a quiet spectator. One of the senior staff, Pak Budi, sat beside me and greeted me with a cheerful "Ngopi dulu bro." We laughed, and before I knew it, a small group had formed around the bench. There was a lively energy as we started chatting about many things: our academic backgrounds, our reason for choosing this internship site, and even some deep thoughts about how fast time was flying. Internships and next month, right? One staff member asked me. Yes, June 3rd, I answered with a chuckle, trying to mask the slight panic that hit me every time I thought about final reports and thesis preparation. Pak Budi steered the conversation toward something totally different. Hey, anyone know a good place to repair my car? Engine's making weird sounds. Suddenly, the conversation spiraled between car maintenance, coffee brands, internship deadlines, and even Harkitnas, the National Awakening Day, which will be celebrated tomorrow. The assistant of Ibu Kofifa is coming tomorrow, someone said. There will be a buzzer too. We got lost in the moment, in the way only warm, spontaneous conversation can carry you to strange, funny, and reflective places. Time became a blur. I checked my phone and was shocked it was 4 p.m. Oh, I gotta go. I have class at 5. I stood up, grabbing my bag in a rush. Good luck with class, Babadi said. Don't, don't get lost in literature. Everyone chuckled. Ironically, that's exactly what I was about to do. I went to campus in about 15 minutes, right through the warm afternoon air of Surabaya. I arrived with 20 minutes to spare and headed straight to the English Literature building. The halls were quiet. I checked the schedule on my phone, Young Adult Literature with M3, 5 p.m. sharp. As I entered the building, I felt strange silence. None of my usual classmates were around. That's when I remember most of them had taken the morning session. I was one of the few who had to take this class in the afternoon due to schedule conflicts. I stood near the classroom, uncertain of what to do with myself. The door was still locked, and the lecturer hadn't arrived yet. I felt like the fatigue from the whole day creeping in. I looked at my reflection in the glass and sighed. My eyes looked sleepy, my hair messy, and my expression a bit lost. I went to the bedroom to splash the cold water on my face. The mirror showed a slightly more refreshed version of myself. Still tired, but at least more awake. On my way back, I realized something. I had left my water bottle at the office fridge. No turning back now, I muttered to myself. I walked to the canteen to buy a bottle of mineral water and by chance ran into one of my classmates, Afri. I nodded thankfully to see a familiar face. We chatted for a while, then walked together to the classroom as Ma'am Tree arrived. The lecture began on time. Despite my fatigue, I found myself pulled into the topic. Identity, info- Identity formation in young adult characters. I even managed to contribute to the discussion, connecting it to the early life of Riley. One of the novels we analyzed is The Course. By the time class ended, the sky had turned dark. I felt my stomach crumble again. My last meal had been brunch, and the coffee had long worn off. I walked to my favorite food tenant just outside the campus gate, a small nasi campur stall that had become my go-to spot whenever I felt too tired to think. I ordered a portion with fried chicken, sambal goreng tempe, and perkedel. As I sat there alone, eating under the soft yellow light of street lamp, I had a strange moment of reflection. All day I had been surrounded by people, internship supervisors, staff members, friends, but in the end I was here by myself, eating in silence. And yet, it didn't feel lonely. It felt real. I had been getting lost all day, lost in work, lost in conversation, lost in my thoughts, and even literally walking alone through campus. But maybe that was the beauty of it. Getting lost wasn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it helped you find pieces of yourself in between the laughter, the cohesion, the coffee breaks, the literature, and the food. Maybe life was just a series of small moments when we get lost, and that's how we learn to find meaning. It was Thursday, May 21, 2025. The day started like most other doing my internship at the Government Library and Archive Service of East Java Province. But unlike the usual rush of organizing documents or assisting visitors in the archive, room. Today felt quieter. Maybe it was just overcast sky of the exhaustion settling into my bones from juggling internship duties and college classes. Whatever the reason, I could already sense it was going to be one of those days where I felt lost again, not physically but emotionally. The morning I arrived early at our second office on Jalan Jagir, the air was cooler than usual. The trees lining the small courtyard outside the building swayed gently in the wind. I greeted the security guard by Riyadi with a smile and nod. He returned the gesture and told me the power might go out temporarily due to some scheduled maintenance in the building. Great, just what we needed. Inside, I sat in the service area assisting a few visitors looking for archive documents. It was slow. Most of the morning dragged on in silence, with occasional typing noises or the sound of a door opening closing. Lala and Lily were stationed at another table whispering about final internship report. I joined in briefly, but even our jokes didn't land the same way today. Everyone seemed tired. At around 11 a.m., I checked my phone. No new messages from Tito and Daniel, and none from Brenna either. She had morning classes today, and I figured she must be busy. Normally, we would send short texts to check on each other, even if just to say good luck with your day or just don't forget to eat. But not today. I stared at my screen for a moment before putting it back into my pocket. Another familiar silence. I used the slow pace to work on my internship report, the same report that had been haunting my evenings and weekends for the past few weeks. I stared at the blinking cursors on the Word document. We're reading the same paragraph over and over, unsure if it was good enough or even relevant. My brain felt foggy. I memorized the window and leaned back in my chair. The lunchtime, the office was almost empty. Most of the staff had gone out to eat, and I didn't feel like joining anyone either. I quietly grabbed my backpack and walked out of the building, heading toward the small warung across the street. I ordered nasi pecel and iced tea and sat alone at the corner table. The sound of traffic passing by filled the silence around me. I had slowly scrolling through Instagram mindlessly. Everyone seemed to be doing something exciting. Friends posting from concerts, cafe hangouts, group selfies. Meanwhile, I just trying to survive the semester. I tried at lock my phone, focusing instead on the warm taste of pecel and charge of rempeyek. Even though I felt isolated, the food gave me some comfort. After lunch, I decided to walk back to the office at Jalan Menur Pumpungan. I needed that free mug of coffee not just for the caffeine but for the routine comfort it offered. I arrived around 1:15 p.m. and made my way straight to the rest area. As expected, it was relatively empty. Except for one senior staff member and another intern I hadn't talked to much before. I poured myself a mug of black coffee and sat down at the corner table. It reminded me of 2 days ago when I had an unexpectedly deep conversation with Pak Budi about his career piece and listened to staff talk about tomorrow's Harkitna celebration. Today felt like nothing that Today was all static and silence. Still, I stayed there for almost an hour. Sometimes it's not about talking, just being somewhere familiar helped keep the loneliness at bay. I sipped my coffee slowly, scrolling through notes for my class at 3 p.m. The subject, literary criticism, a class I like in theory, but not so much when I mentally train like this. I left around 2:15 p.m. and walked to my campus. My step felt heavier with each block, not because I was tired, but because I wasn't in the mood to be around people. At the classroom building, I found a quiet bench near the back entrance and sat alone, letting the wind brush against my face. I closed my eyes for a while and just listened to the sounds of students laughing, motorcycles passing, a distant announcement echoing through the halls. At exactly 3 p.m., I headed to class. The lecturer hadn't arrived yet, so I took a seat near the window. I usually sat with Rana when we shared classes, but this time I was alone again. The minutes passed slowly, and when lecture finally came, I struggled to focus. My mind wandered back to the report I hadn't finished, to the internship ending in June, and how everything in my life felt like it was passing without me catching up. After class and I walked to the canteen without any plan. I wasn't even hungry, just wanted a reason to delay going home. I bought a bottle of water and sat on the edge of the field beside the parking lot. The sun was beginning to set, casting an orange glow across the campus. It was beautiful in a melancholic kind of way. I thought about how often I felt like this being part of something but still feeling out of place doing what I had to do without really knowing it is was enough. Wondering if everyone else had wondering if everyone else was also pretending to have it all together. Eventually I decided to go home. I walked toward the parking area where my motorcycle was parked and took one last look at the sky before putting on my helmet. As I rode through the busy streets of Surabaya, weaving between traffic and passing rows of shops and food stalls, I didn't feel entirely okay, but I didn't feel completely lost either. Maybe that's what life was like during this phase, a series of quiet battles, of showing up when you don't feel like it, of finding meaning in coffee breaks and silent benches and nasi pecel. Maybe it's not about where, maybe it's not about never getting lost, but about learning to navigate the loneliness to walk through until you find your next reason to smile. And even if I was still lost in some ways, at least I was still moving forward. It was Wednesday, May 22, 2025, and something about the morning felt unfamiliar. Though everything around me was the same, I got up earlier than usual, not because I had anything urgent, but because my mind refused to rest. There was a stillness outside my boarding house window, the kind of quiet that makes you reflect on things you try to bury in business. I took a long shower, letting the warm water soak away the leftover tiredness from the week. My internship was still ongoing at the Government Library and Archive Service of East Java Province. It was my third month now, and though everything had become routine, the days didn't feel easier. Some parts of me were adjusting, but other parts were just floating along with it, waiting for something I couldn't quite name. I skipped breakfast that morning. My stomach wasn't ready for food, even though my head knew I needed it. I packed my bag, put on my black jacket. Ta-da. Hmm. I skipped breakfast that morning. I skipped breakfast that morning. My stomach wasn't ready for food, even though my head knew I needed it. I packed my bag, put on my black jacket, and left on my motorbike toward the first office on Jalan Menur Pumpungan. I figured I'd stop by there first to get the free morning coffee. A part of me hoped I might find a familiar face to talk to maybe Pak Budi or one of the other friendly staff members who always had stories to tell. When I arrived, the lobby was nearly empty. The coffee station in the corner still had a pot brewing, so I poured myself a cup and sat alone in the rest area. The air conditioner buzzed above me as I sipped slowly, scrolling through my phone. No new messages. Rena was probably in class. Tito and Daniel were probably sleeping in after late night game session. I didn't want to disturb them. I thought about my report again. Only a few weeks remained before submission. It was coming along, but I wasn't happy with it. Something about the structure felt wrong. It didn't reflect what I had really experienced. I closed my eyes for a moment and leaned back in the chair. I felt like I was doing everything right, but yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being behind. Not in race, but in life. 10 a.m., I moved to the Jagger office. As I rode through the busy Surabaya streets, the wind against my helmet offered a strange comfort. Movement always did that for me, as though riding through the city gave me the illusion of control. It made me feel like I wasn't stuck. When I got to the second office, the reception was warm as usual. Lily was already there, typing something furiously into her laptop. I greeted her and found a seat across the room. I pulled out my laptop and tried to work. For an hour, I managed to edit a few paragraphs of my report. Lala came in a bit later and waved at us, joining with her usual energy. "You look tired," Lala said, as she sat beside me. "I felt tired," I replied with a small laugh. She didn't press further, which I appreciated. Instead, she shared some roasted peanuts from her bag and we snacked together while half working, half talking about mundane things food. Whether her plans for the weekend. It helped ease the weight of on my shoulders, if only for a moment. As noon approaches, we decided to order lunch from nearby warung. I picked ayam geprek and rice, and we all ate in the same pantry area, joking and chatting. It was a simple moment, but in its simplicity, there was a kind of peace I hadn't felt all week. Later in the afternoon, our test slowed down. I found myself staring out the office window, watching as clouds drifted lazily across the sky. I thought again about the future, about graduation, but the uncertain months ahead. My dreams of becoming an editor or a writer felt distant now, buried under financial burdens and the pressure to survive first. Let it tap on, let it tap me on the shoulder, pulling me out of my thoughts. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just spacing out," I said. She gave a small nod and smiled gently. Something getting lost in thoughts in is part of figuring it out. Her words lingered. At 3:30 p.m., I packed up my things and got ready to leave. I didn't have class that afternoon, but I told them I had to meet someone in truth. I just needed a walk. I parked my motorbike near the library and wandered on foot through the neighborhood streets. The sky was turning golden, the day slowly slipping into evening. Kids were playing soccer near the mosque, and the street vendors were preparing for the after office crowd. I ended up a small park I used to visit in my first semester of college. I sat on one of the old benches, the paint now cheap and better. I took out my phone, but instead of scrolling, I just opened my notes app and began to write. I wasn't part of my internship report. It wasn't part of my internship report. It wasn't an assignment or draft for any class. It was just my thoughts, raw and unfiltered, about being 20 something and confused about trying so hard and feeling like it wasn't enough. But how even in good moments, the fear of the future creeps like a shadow. I wrote for almost an hour. When I looked up, the sun was nearly gone. The first stars were blinking awake in the sky. I felt like not fixed, not whole, but a little more connected to myself. I walked back to my motorcycle slowly. The night breeze brushing against my face. On the ride home, I played my favorite playlist and let the music carry me through the streets of Surabaya. That night, after dinner, I called Rena. We talked for almost an hour about our day, our tightness, and our dreams. She told me about poems she read in class that reminded her of us. It was about two people walking through the fog, she said. And even though they couldn't see clearly, they keep holding hands. I didn't say anything right away. I just smiled. "We are going to be okay," she said softly, and I believe her. Even when we are getting lost, sometimes all it takes is a pens, a cup of coffee, a gentle voice to remind us that we are still finding way.